This is Kelso Sturgeon. Thank you very much for joining me for another day at my College of Advanced Sports Handicapping. This is a giant week in college basketball, the biggest one of the season. Have quite a schedule of winners planned, but before we discuss basketball, and a very important point to remember at this time of the season, let's run down the NFL. There's a lot of things happening. Bookmakers in Las Vegas are absolutely ecstatic over the matchups in the conference championship games this weekend because it ensures them of getting two of the best teams in the Super Bowl, and that means big money for the sports books. Now let's talk a little bit about these weekend games, but before that even, there's some speculation as to what the Super Bowl lines are going to be when the big game is played on Sunday, February the 2nd. And these come from Jay Cornegay, who holds court as the head bookmaker at the Las Vegas Hotel Superbook. And here's what Cornegay has to say. If San Francisco gets to the Super Bowl, the 49ers would be a 1.5 point favorite over Denver and a 3.5 point favorite over the New England Patriots. If Seattle gets to the Super Bowl, Seattle would be a 2.5 point favorite over Denver and a 5 point favorite over New England. So regardless of whether Seattle or San Francisco wins the NFC Championship game on Sunday, they will definitely be the favorite in the Super Bowl. Now, you know, betting in this weekend's championship games presents the usual challenges, nothing really special, but let's run down a few things, the betting lines, and then get into a little bit of the history of the series between these teams. You know, Denver opened as a 7 point favorite, a 6.5 point favorite in some places, and has been bet down to minus 4.5 with a total of 55 as the early money came in the form of big bets on the New England Patriots. Seattle opened as a 3.5 point favorite over the 49ers and has remained there. The total in that game is 39.5, getting a lot of two-way action. If you're a money line bettor, Denver is a minus 215, New England a plus 182, Seattle a minus 195, San Francisco a 165. And by the way, as I've said before, if you think one of these underdogs will win straight up, you know, you've got to give serious consideration to the money line. You won't be getting any points, but you'll be getting substantial odds. For instance, if you like New England to win straight up and New England wins straight up, you'd collect $182 for every 100 you wagered. If you like San Francisco to win, you can get $165 on the money line for every $100 wagered. It's just something to think about. You know, if you're looking for a little bit of a guide, recent history between these teams, the Broncos and New England did play this season on November the 24th in Foxborough, and the Patriots won 34-31 in overtime. Very interesting fact about that game. It was a pick'em affair. Denver opened up a 24-0 lead, blew it, and got beat in overtime. It's also of note that Denver is 8-1 straight up at home this season, 6-3 against the number. New England 4-4 straight up on the road, 2-6 against the number when traveling. Broncos quarterback and New England quarterback Tom Brady have faced one another 14 times. Brady holds a 10-4 edge in those games. Now, Seattle and San Francisco played home and home this season. The Seahawks won 29-3 as a 3-point favorite in the second game of the season. The 49ers won in San Francisco 6 weeks ago, 19-17, as a 2.5 point favorite. It is of note, the last two times that San Francisco has played in Seattle, they have been absolutely buried. In addition to that 29-3 loss this season, they got beat last year, 49-13. San Francisco comes into this game riding a 7-game win streak, while the Seahawks, the strongest home field bias in the NFL, 16-1 straight up on their home field the last two seasons. Now, the conference basketball games, if I might shift gears here, have really made handicapping the college games a pay attention affair. You know, On Saturday in the colleges, the underdogs prevailed by a 53-35-5 margin. On Sunday, the number was in favor of the underdogs again as they covered by a 15-7 margin. That means for the weekend that the underdogs covered in 62% of the games. The favorites got beat in 38% of the games. There's a reason for that, and it's something that you have to take into consideration as you wager on college basketball this week. You know, when the conference season starts, there's two elements that are in play here. Number one, the betting lines are always a little bit high on the favorites because they're pretty much based on what the team has done this season. But traditionally, conference basketball games between teams, I don't care whether the spread is 3 or 20, are much closer than one would expect them to be. And that's the reason that 62% of the favorites covered this past week. And every single game played was a conference game. And in many of those games, the fact it was a conference game, a traditional rivalry, put the underdog in the winner's circle, either as a team that covered or one that even won straight up. So it's all about conference basketball right now, and it will be for at least the next 2 weeks before the bookmakers kind of catch up. For whatever the reason, they fail to grab this traditional transition each season until it's about 10 days old. But right now, pay careful attention to all those underdogs. And the one thing to keep in mind, I'd just like to go over some of these games as an illustration. You know, we had undefeated Iowa State at Oklahoma on Saturday. Iowa State, a 4.5-point favorite, got beat straight up 87-82. We had Duke, a 5-point favorite at Clemson. Duke got buried 72-59. We had Oklahoma State on the road at West Virginia, -5.5, just slipped by a single point. Pennsylvania playing at home, a 5.5-point underdog, a 7.5-point underdog to Princeton, won straight up 77-74. And the next game illustrates the second element of the conference games. If you're a top team, everybody's gunning for you, especially your conference opponents. And Wichita State, one of, I think, 4 undefeated teams left in college basketball this season, went into Missouri State, into Springfield, as a 10-point favorite. They beat Missouri State 72-69 in overtime. And once again, that's going to happen over and over and over again, because when you're a top team, the crown that you wear does weigh heavy on your head. So pay attention to these top teams that are playing, especially on the road. They face an uphill battle, but that's not to say that you have to be a road favorite to get the job done. You know, I refer you to Sunday's 2 games. You have Iowa, a 6-point underdog at Ohio State, won straight up by 10, 84-74. Northwestern, an absolutely terrible team, +5 at home against, it fails me, but they, against Illinois, I'm sorry, an arch rival. And Northwestern won 49-43. Once again, keep in mind that conference underdogs deserve a second look. I'm not saying that conference underdogs need to be automatic plays. I'm just saying that the circumstances of conference play makes one take a second look at all underdogs, period, regardless of what a point spread might be. And last but not least, if you are one of those teams that is undefeated, nationally ranked, everybody is looking for you. And if you're on the road, you're going to take the worst of it, because that home team is going to fire its best shot at you every single time. Once again, looking ahead to Sunday's conference championship games, are going to have strong plays in both of them, plus totals in each of those games. College basketball, NBA basketball, every single day this week. You can get it all on this website, or toll free at 1-800-755-2255. And let me remind you, you can still get on board for my Best Bets Basketball Club for the entire season. All college and NBA plays, just $229 charged to your major credit card. And just once again a reminder, all games, all releases available on this website 7 days a week, or toll free in my office, 1-800-755-2255. I thank you very much for listening. Now let's go get the money.